Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone. So let's begin our class with the opening prayer. Can we have a student for the opening prayer?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. For our first student, I would like to call G431.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you today?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Jazakallah for asking. I'm fine too. Okay, so if you can please read the opening prayer for everyone. Start with Bismillah. Auzu billah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. Lord, expand my mind and make my task easier for me. Surah Taha, verses 26 to 27. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah asmul jaza. So it's the eighth lesson of this course, and inshallah today we will finish Surah As-Saf. So we are only left with one verse 15, which we will cover it today, and then inshallah in next week's class we will start Surah Al-Jummah. Okay. So before we start with the lesson, I would just like to remind everyone about class etiquettes. I hope everyone did wuzu before joining the class. Make sure that the clothes you are wearing are clean. Your head should be covered with a scarf or a cap. You should be sitting in a quiet place, especially when you get a turn on the mic. We do hope that someone elder is present with you so that they can help you if you need. And lastly, please check that you have joined the class with your correct ID. Okay, so I can see a few names in the participant list. Okay, so if all of you can go to the participant panel and check whether you have joined with your student ID or your personal name and correct it if needed. So as usual, we will start the class with the translation of today's verse. And if we can pick a student for the translation.
Yes, I would like to call G306.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you today?
Good.
Alhamdulillah. So if you can please read the translation of Tabbuz, and then I'll change the slide.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the rejected. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. O ye who believe, be helpers of Allah, as said Jesus, son of Mary, to his disciples, who are my helpers in the cause of Allah. The disciples said, we are helpers of Allah. So a party of the children of Israel believed, while a party disbelieved. Then we gave power to those who believed against their enemy, and they became victorious.
Victorious, Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
Okay, so just to I'll go through this one more time. So in this verse, it said, O you who believe, be helpers of Allah. As said Jesus, son of Mary, to his disciples, who are my helpers in the cause of Allah? The disciples said, we are helpers of Allah. So a party of the children of Israel believed, while another party disbelieved. Then we gave power to those who believed against their enemy, and they became victorious. So now I'll go through the split word translation, and hopefully this will help you with your hifz, your memorization. Ya ayyuhallazina, O you, those who, amanu, believe, kunu, you be, ansarullahi, helpers of Allah. Kama, like that, when qala, said, Isa ibn, Jesus, son of Maryama, Mary, lil hawarijina, to the disciples, man, who, ansari, are my helpers, ilallahi, to Allah. Qala, said, al hawarijuna, the disciples, nahnu, we, ansarullahi, are helpers of Allah. Fa'amanat, so believed, ta'ifatun, a party, min bani, from Isra'ila, Israel, wa, and katharat, disbelieved, ta'ifatun, a party, fa'ayyadna, so we helped, allazina, those who, amanu, believed, ala, against, aduvihim, their enemy. So we helped them against their enemy. فَأَصْبَحُوا, so they became ظَاهِرِينَ, victorious. Okay. So now for the rule of the day. Today we are going to cover the rule of iqlab. In the last lesson, we looked at izhar, ikhfa, and idgham. Okay. So today we'll do the final rule concerning nun sakin and tanween, which is the rule of iqlab. So whenever we have nun sakin or any tanween, whether it's fathatan, kasratan, or dammatan, and these are followed by a mutaharrik ba, mutaharrik meaning voweled, whether it has a fatha, kasra, or damma, that's when the rule of iqlab applies. Okay, iqlab means exchange in pronunciation. So if you see a nun sakin or tanween followed by the letter ba, the sound of nun is changed into meen with a prolonged light nasal sound. Okay, now in the Holy Quran, a small meme is placed on top of such words, such letters, to help us, the readers. And basically the small meme indicates, it shows us, tells us that iqlab will take place here. Okay, the rule of iqlab needs to be applied in this place. As you can see in these examples, there is a tiny meme on top of the letters where we need to apply this rule. Now, unlike the other rules of nun sakin, this one is fairly easy because there's only one letter, which is the letter ba. So whenever you see nun sakin or tanween followed by the letter ba, and you see this little meme on top, then you should know that the sound of nun will be exchanged with the sound of meen. Okay, so we read this as mim bani. Okay, mim, not min. So that is the correct way to read iqlab. Now, let's have a student go through the remaining examples.
For our next student, I would like to call G454.
G454, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine too. Jazakallah for asking. Okay, so if you can read Bismillah and then let's go through these examples.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
And if you can read the first example.
Min bani.
Excellent, well done. So what are we doing here? What rule are we applying here?
We're applying iqlab, which means when you exchange a noon sakin, or a letter that carries the reen for a meme when it comes before a ba.
That's right, excellent, well done. So let's go through the remaining examples as well. How would you read the second example?
Mubashirin birasul.
Okay, one more time. Mubashiran birasul.
Mubashiran birasul.
Okay, very good. Next one.
Abadam bima.
Very good. Last one.
Min ba'di.
Okay, so this is a blank here. So min ba'di.
Min ba'di.
Okay, very good. Jazakallah. So let's have one more student to go through the same examples.
For our next student, I would like to call G429.
G429. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you today?
Fine, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine too. Okay, so do you understand the rule of iqlab?
Yes.
Okay, so which letter requires us to do iqlab? If noon sakin or tanween is followed by?
A ba.
That's right. So when we do iqlab, we change the sound of noon for which sound?
Mim.
That's right. So how would you read this word?
Min bani.
Okay, one more time. Mim.
Min bani.
Very good. Next one.
Mubashiran bi rasul.
Next one.
Abadan bima.
And last one.
Min ba'di.
Okay. The ya, you can ignore it because it's a blank letter. Silent. Min ba'di.
Min ba'di.
Okay. Jazakallah smil jaza. So now we are going to move on to our today's lesson, which is verse 14 of Surah As-Saf. And I'll pick a few students to go over this verse. Can we have a student for the practice?
Yes, for our student, I would like to call G446.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Walaikum salam.
How are you today, G446?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine too. Okay, so if you can please read Bismillah and then I will lead you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, and before I start, I would like to request all the students to please repeat after me from home. Ya ayyuhallazina.
Ya ayyuhallazina
Amanu.
amanu
Kunu.
kunu
Ansarallahi.
ansarallahi
Okay, so here we have a noon sakin followed by the letter sod. Do you know whether we are going to do izhar here, clearly pronounce the noon, or are we going to do ikhfa, conceal the sound?
Conceal it.
That's right. So we read it as Ansarallahi.
أنصار الله
كما قال
كما قال
عيسى بن مريم.
عيسى بن مريم.
Okay, so we have to do a jerking sound here. Remember, we covered this rule. We have 5 letters of qalqala: qaf, ta, ba, jim, and dal. Do you remember this rule?
I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine. So the 5 letters that I just mentioned, when they are sakin, in other words, when they are carrying sukoon, we have to do a jerking sound on them. And depending on where they are located, whether it's in the middle of a word, at the end, and whether it had a tashdeed before, the strength of the qalqala changes. Okay, so in this case, it's just a soft qalqala. Isa ibn Maryam. G446, Assalamu alaikum.
عيسى بن مريم
للحواريين
للحواريين
من أنصاري. Again, we have to do ikhfa. أنصاري.
من أنصاري
إلى الله. قال الحواريون.
قال الحواريون.
Okay, prolong this for 2 seconds. قال الحواريون.
قال الحواريون.
Okay, so again, we have another alif mad. So inshallah, we'll cover this rule in upcoming classes. Whenever we have alif, a blank alif, and previous letter has a fatha, the alif is called alif mad. Okay, it's identified as alif mad, and therefore we prolong it for 2 seconds. قال الحواريون.
قال الحواريون.
نحن أنصار الله.
نحن أنصار الله.
فآمنت طائفة.
فآمنت طائفة من.
Okay, very good. So we have to do which rule here? We are merging the tanween into the following mushaddad letter. So this rule is idgham, right? طائفة.
من.
Okay, so the word starts from here. Okay, so let's continue from here. طائفة من.
طائفة من.
Okay, so whenever we have mim mushaddad, we have to do a 2-second nasal sound. And we learned this other rule just today, that when we have to do iqlab, when we change the sound of noon sakin into mim, we also have to do 2-second nasal sound. Okay. Mim bani.
من بني
إسرائيل.
إسرائيل
وكفرت.
وكفرت
طائفة.
وكفرت طائفة
فأيدنا الذين.
فأيدنا الذين
فأيدنا الذين.
فأيدنا الذين.
Okay, so again we have to do a soft jerk. فأيدنا الذين.
فأيدنا الذين
آمنوا على عدوهم.
عدوهم.
Okay, on lam we don't have a tashdid. على عدوهم.
عدوهم.
فأصبحوا
فأصبحوا
ظاهرين.
ظاهرين.
Okay, Jazakallah Jaza. Can we have one more student for the practice?
Yes, for the next student, I would like to call G402.
G402. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullah. Okay, do you want to read by yourself or would you like me to lead you?
Myself.
Okay. Please start when you're ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله كما قال عيسى ابن مريم للحواريين من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله فآمنت طائفة من بني إسرائيل وكفرت طائفة فأيدنا الذين آمنوا على عدوهم فأصبحوا ظاهرين.
Okay, Jazakallah, please stay on the mic. So we covered this rule in one of our previous lessons. Do you know what rule we have to apply here on Noon Sakin?
Pardon?
Do you know what rule we need to apply here on these Noon Sakin? Okay, so that's fine. We look at the next letter, and it's not one of the throat letters. Okay, it's not alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, or ghain, fa. Those are the 7 letters of izhar. Okay, so in this case, you can see here we have Noon Sakin followed by alif. So we can do izhar here. Okay, we have to do izhar here. But in this case, because Noon Sakin is followed by Sod, we have to do ikhfa. We have to conceal the sound of Noon Sakin. Okay, so we read this as sorry. Right? Okay. Over here, what is the name of this letter?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think because you're reading a little fast, you read it as ba. Okay, so we should read slowly when we read the Holy Quran. Okay, because we have to be really careful not to make any mistakes. Okay, and lastly, again, we covered this rule. When we have a mim mushaddad, we have to hold the nasal sound for 2 seconds. Okay, so mim mushaddad and noon mushaddad are 2 letters which require us to do 2-second nasal sound. Okay, Jazakallah. And lastly, don't forget to do qalqala as well. Isa bin. Try.
Isaba.
Isa bin.
Isabanu.
And here as well. فَأَيَّدْنَا.
Ayyadana.
Okay, Jazakallah Sunul Jazak. Okay, we have time to get one more student for the practice.
Yes, I would like to call G431. G431. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, would you like to read by yourself?
Yes, please.
Okay, you can start when ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا
Jazakallah Asmul Jaza. So we can now move on to our Hifz section. Just before I move on to Hifz section, I would like, this is for all students, this feedback. So when we prolong the medium long stretch and extra long stretch, there should be a difference. So this is for all the students. Okay. This rule is covered in G1 and G2. So I'll just briefly tell you what you have to do. So for the medium long stretch, the Maddus Saghir, you have to prolong it for minimum 3 seconds. And the extra long stretch has to be minimum 4 seconds. Okay, so you can see here, this is the extra long stretch. And you should be able to differentiate between the two. Okay, the medium long looks like this. Okay, so this is what the medium long stretch looks like, and the extra long stretch looks like this. Okay, they look similar, but they're not the same. Okay, and all students should know what they look like, what they are called, and how long they need to be prolonged for. Okay, so we are going to move on to listening to the Hifz. Now, in the last class, we covered verse 13 and verse 14. So for those of you who have memorized verse 13 and 14, please raise your hand. And everyone else, if you can please lower your hand so that we can pick the students effectively.
Okay, so there are some students who have raised their hands. I'll pick G429.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, G429, you've memorized verse 13 and verse 14?
Yes.
Okay, please have a look how it starts. Yaghfir lakum. And I'm going to change the screen.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يغفر لكم ذنوبكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ومساكن طيبة في جنات عدن ذلك الفوز العظيم وأخرى تحبونها نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين.
Jazakallah Jaza. MashaAllah, you read really well. Your Hifz was really good. Just a few things which I would like to point out in terms of the pronunciation, which you can work on. So here we have Noon Sakin followed by the letter Ta. Do you know what rule we have to apply here?
إخفاء.
That's right. So how would you read this?
من تحتها الأنهار.
Okay, very good. And how would you read this word?
ومساكن.
Okay, very good. So the only reason why I highlighted this one is because we have two different types of kaf. So one has a thin sound, kaf, and one has a thick sound, qaf. Okay, and sometimes when we can't see it in front of us, it's easy to mix up the sounds. Okay, that's why we need to, when you revise, you need to open the Quran and revise while looking at it, then close it and revise it that way. So that way the brain saves a picture of the Hifz. Okay, and it's easier to recall it.
Okay.
Okay, let's have another student.
Yes, for our next student, I would like to call G306.
G306. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, you have memorized verse 13 and 14.
Yes.
Okay, please start when you are ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يغفر لكم ذنوبكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ومساكن طيبة في جنات عدن ذلك الفوز العظيم وأخرى تحبونها نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين.
Jazakallah asmul jaza. So once again, your hifz was perfect. In terms of pronunciation, it's the same thing which I mentioned to previous student as well. Be careful of izhar and ikhfa. You did the ikhfa correctly here. Okay, so remember you need to do ikhfa here as well because the tanween is followed by the letter ta, and here as well. Okay, because noon sakin is followed by ta. We only do izhar when noon sakin is followed by one of the izhar letters. Okay, so in this case, ha, which is one of the izhar letters, we do izhar here on noon sakin.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. I'm sorry to stop you here, but the student was able to see the screen. The screen was up paused.
Okay, G306, assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, when you read the hifz, were you looking at the screen or did you read by heart?
I read by heart.
Okay, right, that's fine. Okay, so now, those of you who have memorized only up to verse 12 and you haven't been able to recite it in one of the previous classes, can you please raise your hand? As for those who have managed to memorize up to verse 14, please make sure to send us your recording, okay, to g3hifz@gmail.com. Okay, so those of you who have only memorized up to verse 11 and 12, can you please raise your hand?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. There are 2 students who have raised their hands. I'll choose one of them. G327, if you can unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good too. Okay, so G328, you've only memorized up to verse 12, is that right?
I've memorized until verse 13.
Okay, all right. So what you can do is you can recite verse 11 and 12. And once you've memorized verse 14, then you can recite 13, 14 together.
Okay.
Or you can send us a recording as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I start then?
Yeah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
Jazakallah some jazaa. So let me resume the screen share. Please stay on the mic.
Okay.
So your hifz was really good, but in terms of the pronunciation, there are a few things which you can work on. Okay, so the letter zal has a different sound to the letter za. So let's see if I can find an example. So in this one, it's all the letters are zal. Okay, they have a hissing sound. The tip of the tongue should touch the upper front teeth. Okay, za, allazina. Try.
الذين.
Yeah, that was much better. As for letter za, it looks different. So here is an example. Can you see the difference?
Yes.
So this is zal, it has a sharp shape, and this is za. Now za has a similar sound to the letter z in English alphabets. Okay, whereas zal is a distinct sound. It's I think like specific to Arabic, it's not in English. So be careful of that. The other thing, when we have ya sakin and previous letter has a kasra, we have to prolong for 2 seconds. Okay, tunjikum. Try.
تُنْجِيكُمْ.
Yeah. And lastly here, we have noon sakin followed by the letter tha. Do you know what rule applies here?
I forgot.
Okay, so just remember the 7 letters of izhar. Okay, alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, ha. If noon sakin is followed by those 7, we clearly pronounce the noon sound. Okay,
Okay.
but if it's not one of those 7 letters, then most likely we have to do a fa. Okay, so we have to conceal the sound. Kuntum. Try.
كُنْتُمْ.
Yeah, that was much better. Jazakallah. Okay, if we can pick one more student.
Yes, for our next student, I would like to call G349.
Assalamu alaikum, G349. If you can please unmute yourself, G349.
I think they're having some technical difficulties. So for our next student, I would like to call G454.
Okay, G454, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, G454, have you memorized up to verse 12?
I've done up to verse 13 and I'm still doing 14.
Okay, all right. And have you recited verse 11 and 12 previously in the class?
No.
Okay, all right. So you can start when you are ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا ألا تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم. ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
Okay, Jazakallah sul Jaza. So, mashallah, you've made a really good effort to memorize the verses. Just two things which you need to correct before it becomes like a bigger problem. Okay, so first thing is, here you said atujahiduna. Okay, here we have a vaw with a fatha. Okay, so the way to fix this is to, after the class, open the Quran, read these two verses at least 5 to 10 times, then close it and then read it without looking at it. Okay, and record yourself on the phone. Okay, then open the Quran again, play the recording and check whether you made these mistakes or whether you've corrected them.
Okay.
Okay, so for this one, you skipped these two words and you went straight from amanu to this word. Okay, so again, it's the same way. After the class, read the two verses 5 to 10 times, then record yourself and see whether you've corrected your mistakes.
Okay.
Okay, Jazakallah.
Okay.
So now, for those of you who have only memorized up to verse 10 and you haven't been able to recite it one of the previous classes, can you please raise your hand? So those of you who have only memorized up to verse 10 and haven't been able to recite in class, can you please raise your hand?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. There is only one hand up at the moment, and their ID is G349.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. G349.
I believe they might be having some technical difficulties because they keep on leaving. If
Okay.
anyone hasn't memorized, hasn't done their hifz up to 10, you can raise your hand so a teacher can listen to you. Okay, so we have a student, G403. If you can unmute yourself.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you today?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, that's good. You've only memorized up to verse 10 so far?
I was memorizing 11 to 12, but I'm not 100% confident yet.
Okay, and have you sent us a recording of up to verse 10?
No, we forgot.
Okay, that's fine. So you can read verse 9 and 10 today off by heart.
Okay.
And then if there are any verses left from the previous ones, make sure to send us a recording of those. Okay?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالبينات هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون.
Jazakallah, please stay on the mic. So in terms of the hifz, your hifz was really good. Just one thing here, we have Rasulahu. I think you said Rasulahum. Okay, so you have to fix this. Did you hear what I said to the previous student? How you can fix any mistakes?
I don't think I had.
Okay, so for those of you, if you make any mistake, you have to revise by looking at the Quran first. If you keep revising without looking at the Quran, then if you are making any mistakes, they'll only become more and more strong. Okay, so the mistake will become permanent and it will become harder and harder to fix the mistake. Okay, fix the error. So it's really important that you keep revising both ways. First, by looking at the Quran, and then close the Quran and read without looking. Okay, read off by heart. As for you, G403, in terms of pronunciation, please make sure the short stroke of fatha here and here, it should be 1 second long. Walau kariha. Try.
Walau kariha.
Yeah, and then here, the sound of ha and qaf. Wadinil haqqi.
Wadinil haqqi.
Okay, so keep practicing and inshallah practice it will get better.
Okay.
Okay, we have time to pick one more student for verses 9 to 10.
Yes, I would like to pick G356. If you can unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. G356.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullah. How are you today?
Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine too. Okay, G356, you've memorized up to verse 9 and 10.
Yes.
Okay, let me change the screen. Please start when you are ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون.
Jazakallah. G356, can I ask you to read from Wadin al-Haqqi again?
Okay. ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون.
Okay, Jazakallah. Please stay on the mic. So in terms of hifz, mashallah, it was perfect. In terms of pronunciation, please make a note of these few things. So first of all, we have to do a jerking sound because ta is one of the qalqala letters. Liyutfi'u. Try.
ليطفئوا.
Okay, and then make sure that the short strokes of fatha, kasra and dhamma, they should only be 1 second long. Okay, over here as well, you prolong them for more than 1 second. Okay, liyuzhirahu ala deen
ليظهره على الدين.
Okay, so make sure this fatha and this fatha, it should be only 1 second long. Okay, Jazakumullah to all the students. Now, for those of you who haven't been able to recite your hifz in the class, please make sure to send us your recording to g3hifz@gmail.com. Okay, label the recording, and in the email tell us as well which verses are you sending, and we listen and update your hifz record accordingly. So now we are going to move on to the knowledge quest. The knowledge quest given in last class was to find out how many times does this phrase Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu appear in Surah As-Saff. Okay, so those of you who did do this homework, please raise your hand, and the support teacher, if you can launch the poll for everybody to take part in. So everyone, please answer what you think or what you found out from your research. And we'll pick one student in the meanwhile to give us the answer as well.
Yes, I would like to pick G311.
G311. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Can we try another student?
Yes, I would like to pick G428. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, G428. Did you find out how many times this appears in Surah As-Saff?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll lower everyone's hands. Okay, if you know the answer to this question, only then raise your hand. Okay, G338. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes.
I think so. The answer is 6 times. 3 times.
Okay, Jazakallah sul jaza. And support teacher, what is the majority answer on the poll?
Yes, the majority answer is 3 as well, with 61%.
Jazakallah. So let's have a look. That is the right answer. The phrase Ya ayyuhallazina amanu appears 3 times in Surah As-Saff. First, it appears in verse 3. Okay, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu lima taquluna. Then it appears in verse 11, right at the beginning of the second ruku. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu hal adullukum. And then it appears in the last verse in verse 15. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kunu ansarullah. Okay, so the reason why it's important that you take part in these knowledge quest activities as well is because if you find out this kind of information, and if you remember it, then while you're reciting, let's say you're reciting the entire Surah As-Saff to someone, it is possible that you start reading this verse 3, but you get confused and you jump to verse 11 or verse 15. But if you have already found out this, then you will your brain will actively try not to make this mistake. Okay, so we'll now move on to the homework. Homework for tonight is to memorize Surah As-Saff verse 15. For those of you who have memorized all the previous verses, keep revising them. Okay, and those of you who haven't caught up to verse 15, you have the next few days, okay, until the next Tuesday to catch up. Okay, so do your best. For knowledge quest, because we are starting Surah Al-Jummah in next class, please find out how many examples of iqlab are there in Surah Al-Jummah. Remember, you can easily find this by looking for tiny names on top of certain letters. So we'll end the class now with ending prayer. Can we have a student?
Yes, for the ending prayer, I would like to call G392.
Assalamu alaikum. G392.
Okay, so I'll call another student. G441, if you can unmute yourself. Assalamu alaikum, G441.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Can you please read the ending prayer for everyone?
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma arhamni bil-Qur'an al-Azim.
And the translation?
Oh Allah, have mercy on me through the great Qur'an. وَجَعَلَهُ لِي إِمَامًا وَنُورًا وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً. And make it for me the leader, the light, the guidance, and the mercy.
Jazakallah khairul jazaa. We'll see you all next week on Tuesday, inshallah. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.